Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is BMT coming at you again with this one. Um, I'm definitely going to be joined by a special guest. We're going to be talking about something that is very serious. That's been going on for a while. And she's already here. That's awesome. We won't be too long, but we will make sure y'all share it on your smart devices. Also, excuse me. Make sure we get it out here. We're joined by the one, the only, one of the co-hosts of BMT. Because we are a multifaceted mindset of people. Um, I was today. I was going to talk about. I think yesterday was National Coming Out Day. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it is
Hmm.
National. Have you ever heard of National Coming Out Day?
No, I have not.
I guess I have to catch you up to speed on that one. Yes, we. For all those who haven't don't know, yesterday was National Coming Out Day, where you can openly come out about being bisexual, pansexual, trisexual, non-sexual, and demisexual, and all kind of stuff. It was your time to come out yesterday, so you'll have to wait a whole another year before you come out about your gender. So it was a national holiday. I'm so disappointed that Ruby did not know about that. I understand she's a busy woman, so of course we will excuse her for not knowing about that. She'll have to make up for that in another stream. But
I don't know about most made-up holidays, so
that
just
was not a made up holiday, Ruby. That was
Mhm.
actually a holiday for people if you were aware of those people and their struggles. But it's okay. We will catch up to speed. We will have you come to an HR meeting so we can work
Uh-huh.
on you learning how to acknowledge those people in their feelings. So
Naturally. I'll work hard on that.
thank you. Thank you. Y'all pray for me. Pray for me and pray for my co-host. But today we actually have to have a conversation. Have you, Lady Ruby, have you heard about Timothy Simpkins?
Yeah, I think everyone by now has heard of Timothy Simpkins. It depends on what media they follow, what they've heard about Timothy Simpkins, but yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Could you tell us what you know about him?
Okay, well, I guess what everyone knows for sure is that there was a fight in a classroom between Timothy Simpkins and another boy in his class, and he pulled a gun and shot the kid and also ended up shooting a teacher. So I think those are like the bare knuckle facts no one is disputing. I think almost every other part of this case is currently in dispute somewhere, but everyone agrees on those facts.
Uh,
Um, I think it's important to note a few things about Timothy Simpkins, which a lot of people don't realize. Is first, while they're watching the video, because of the way the video is like grainy and whatever, some people are very confused about who's the aggressor in the fight. And because the guy who's standing up and doing all the punching and the threatening has a similar hairstyle, they think that that's Timothy Simpkins. That is not Timothy Simpkins. Every person in the classroom, including the teachers, have confirmed that the person getting the shit kicked out of them is Timothy Simpkins in the video. The one being thrown around and beaten is Timothy Simpkins in the video. So that's important to know. The second important thing to know is that very recently, he's been being bullied. We hear about the effects of bullying all
mhm,
the time.
right.
But the important thing is that when he was bullied, they beat him, they stripped him naked, and they robbed him, threatening his life. And during the video, if you guys were listening, Buddy beating the hell out of him was threatening his life. Now, you could try to dismiss that all you want, but let's not forget the fact that Timothy Simpkins is also someone living with PTSD because his own father was beaten to death. So, those are basically the most pertinent facts of the case. I mean, at least so far as I have listened to the facts, because what people don't realize, right? I mean, post traumatic
Don't mind, I
stress
was just sharing
disorder.
it to you. Go ahead. I was
Oh,
just sharing
okay.
the video. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. What people don't realize are the effects that post-traumatic stress can have. When you lose a parent violently and suddenly, that already has an impact on you. Then you're being bullied constantly. So you are already feeling unsafe constantly. Then, very serious things happen to you. So you start carrying a gun or a knife or something to protect yourself, and then you're getting the living crap kicked out of you, not outside, not by the corner store, in the classroom. They were in class. That's supposed to be a safe zone. And he's not safe. And he's being thrown around for, like, it's not like it's like, oh, he got punched once and that's it. Nope, there's no safety in the classroom. No one can protect him. No one can save him. As this guy sitting there beating him and throwing him and telling him I'm going to kill you. What would you do? Look, I'm not sure why we're all talking about Timothy Simpkins like he's this horrible predator, this terribly violent, horrible guy. Because, like, again, what would you do? I,
Okay, I'm gonna be honest.
mhm.
I don't think I would bring a gun to school. I don't. I don't like. I don't think I would do that. Like I've had things happen to me in my life, but nothing to wherever I thought I would have to bring a gun to school to deal with my problems. Granted, I get it. You had problems going on with your household and stuff, right? And it's rough, you know. I dealt with bullying. Um, his name was Matthew Atkins. He was a foster kid, and he used to always pick on me. Okay,
Mhm.
but I never thought that I would need to bring a gun to defend myself. You know what I'm saying? And I had PTSD.
But let me
You
ask you
know,
a question though about that, because here's the thing. I think we've all been bullied to some extent or another,
right,
right? But when bullying, because some people, we know some kids just get it worse, right? Now,
right,
you see it escalating over the course of months, years. It's just getting worse and worse. And then the last time that it escalated, you ended up naked. They
right.
beat the shit out of you and robbed you. What's the next escalation? And remember, while they're doing it, they're threatening your life. What's the next escalation from there? Like, what do you do at that point?
That is quite um and that is quite a lot to take in. And I because he was beaten and stripped naked, which was sexual assault.
Mhm.
We're just definitely putting that out there.
And we don't have the
Um,
details of what happened after he was naked, but I've never really heard of a lot of these cases where they strip a male down naked and don't do
right, like
something.
that was wild. I think that was reported. His mother gave that statement that they stripped her son naked. I'm hoping that they didn't take it further, but then again, I mean that could drive a lot of people over the edge.
Hmm.
That can,
Right.
um, that can because we always do the woulda, shoulda, coulda if that was that was us. But being sexually assaulted in front of a whole group of people and nobody um doing anything,
Hmm.
that can do something to somebody's psyche.
Right.
And I'm not going to diminish that. I'm not going to diminish that feeling because I'm pretty sure that happening to somebody and also in front of people that would have done something to them. The
Right.
thing the thing I worry about in this dialogue is that are there more people like him on the internet? And is this going to give a ripple effect of, you understand what I'm saying? Is this going to be a ripple effect of them saying, hey, this is probably your best way of how you're going to have to deal with your situation? Like forever, them girls that are picking on you, and you know, this will make them go away. For any of them boys that are making fun of you because you play Fortnite and you look a certain type of way, or because you identify as this certain type of gender or affiliation. Are you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
I look at when somebody does something. Like, I grew up watching movies where when you stand up to the bully, that was okay, cool. You take your licks, you take your shots and your jabs. I get that. What I worry about is, mind you, he shot other people other than just that one person. And so we deal with something, especially in these spaces, called blind rage or a rage. And I'm not calling this on any group or any affiliation. I'm just looking at this as, hey, like, this will lead to other stuff. I have been reading what's been said on social media. What's going on, sexy too much? And how you doing? I am she. Always good to see you. I am she said I was bullied and brought a knife to school with the intent to kill my bully. Um, thank you for being honest about that. Um,
Hmm.
I I'm just, it's a lot. It's
Well,
a
I
lot.
want you to think about one thing, right? Because unlike, and this is why I actually don't like the fact that they're trying to compare him to a school shooter because it's not at all the same. Um,
Ruby,
it's not. No, I'm going to explain to you. No, it's not. And
please,
I'll explain
please.
why. No, 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 because the details are very clear, right? School shooters walk into the school after having made a plan to kill everybody, right? Except for like the four people who have ever been nice to them. That is their goal and that is their plan. And they walk in armed to the gills and start shooting everybody. Now, the difference between that and Timothy Simpkins is that Timothy Simpkins had the gun for protection, but he didn't just walk up to the bully and use it. He lived the whole day until this kid snatched him in his classroom in front of teachers, in front of everybody, and started throwing him around and beating the living hell out of him and threatening his life again. And what happened was another teacher from another classroom came in and finally got that guy up off of him. Now the thing is, while the teacher's having to physically forcibly hold the other kid back because that kid's trying to get loose from the teacher to get him again, he goes into his backpack and shoots at the kid 8 times. Now, what happened is the kid who was beating the hell out of him and terrorizing him for months got hit, and the teacher who was holding that kid back got hit once. So he didn't start aiming at all these kids in the classroom. He didn't start aiming at random people. He was only aiming for the object of his terror. So that is a very different scenario than the school shooters who decide, well, you know what? I've had a hard time in high school. I'm gunning everyone down. Very different scenario.
So, okay, because again, like I said, I'm hearing what you're saying. Like, so, like, whenever they have somebody, and I don't want to call him, we don't want to say he's a serial murderer because he didn't kill anybody. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take away the accountability. You're 18, he's an 18-year-old that
Mm-hmm.
literally he made this choice. You know what I'm saying? I'm also going to
Mm-hmm.
look. I'm also looking at the fact of how his at home they would call him the little nerd. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why they would call him a little nerd at home, but I guess that's what he did. Um, these things have ramifications on a young adult. They do, and he literally, this is his mindset um of how he handled this. It's very. I get what you're saying, Ruby, and I'm wondering that with other people that will come after him, but bullying, this will be a life. This. People think that we can get rid of bullying. We cannot. It's just one of those things. I know people like to believe they can, but it's just one of those things that we just always had since, you know, ever. We're just never going to be equal. You know what I'm saying? There was the brown skin girls I've heard had problem with the light skin girls, and they fought them or between the certain kid that they look like this or they have money or different stuff. It's been different things that have happened that have caused people to do certain things to other people because they were different. And so we're never going to have it. But I'm also like, is that still a valid reason? Because yeah, I get it. You're getting beat up. There have been plenty of people who have been beat up, but they've never tried to shoot. I mean, at that, it's kind of one of
Not
those things
true.
where
Not true
okay,
at all. Mm-mm.
look, okay, so if that's the case, okay, so you're saying there's been plenty of people that have been beat up in school. They have why does this take? So you're saying are we not supposed to hold him accountable?
See, there's a difference between not holding someone accountable and trying
Mhm.
to um, demonize someone that doesn't deserve to be demonized, right? So, for example, um, if you're a battered woman, because initially, right, battered women were just considered just like the people who kill their spouses for insurance money, right? It's the same thing. There's no difference between this group of people, because ultimately the woman shot her husband while he was sleeping. So it's the same as the insurance money gambit. It's not though, right? Because if you are battered consistently over months, years, it starts to break you and you are terrified. And part of what the bully is doing is breaking you down psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. So that way there's no escape. And then on top of that, when resources that should help you, so like authorities, don't help you, so there really is no escape, you go to your family, right? There's no sympathy and escape there. So you are literally a helpless victim and you have to keep walking into the lion's den and it keeps escalating and you keep being dismissed. To me, I look at him very much in the same way that I look at battered women, right? And this is why they came up with this syndrome, because it is psychologically different than the person who shoots their spouse for vengeance or for insurance money. It's psychologically different than the kid who wants to be cool and get into a gang, so he shoots people. Right? It's psychologically different. And so you have to look at the guilty mind, right? The mens rea. You have to look at the intention. Why did the kid have the gun? He didn't. And then what did he do with it? Because he had a gun in his backpack. He could have walked into that classroom and just started shooting at that kid. Never would have gotten hit again. But that's not what he did. That's not what he did. He had the gun for protection. He wanted to use it in case he needed to defend himself. And then guess what? Between the
Well,
kid who's been brutalizing him and the school that failed him, he got brutalized and he needed to defend himself. And you know what? It seemed like a pretty hopeless thing. It's just going to keep happening again and
but,
again.
but
This
he
kid is
brought
telling
a
him,
gun.
I'm going to kill you and it's going to happen again. I'm going to keep doing this and I'm going to kill you. It's going to happen. This is what the guy's saying to him. You could hear it even in the part
I've
of the
I've
cell phone
I've
video.
heard it, but so so he shot other people that had
No,
got hit,
he didn't shoot at other people. He shot
but
at that guy. That's it.
the other people get hurt.
Right. So the reason why, like I said, the person who got hurt the worst, obviously, is the kid he was aiming at. The second worst hurt person was the teacher. The person who got grazed by a bullet was someone who was behind them. Right. So what I'm saying is that he was only aiming for one person.
Okay,
He was
okay,
only aiming in one direction. He didn't then lose his mind to start shooting all over the place. He was only aiming in one direction.
okay. Now, in hearing that, Ruby, granted, and shout out to Sexy, too much for you, Coleman. I know she has a birthday coming up real soon. Check out her channel. You know what I'm saying? It's a really good channel. Um, Crew Nation Family. There was recently a situation similar to this in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I'm and seeing this, I'm hearing what you're saying. I like I said, and like it's probably because I've been bullied before, but I can't give empathy to this because I'm like, dude, I've been there. And I mean, like,
Have you?
not, no, I'm,
I mean,
see,
let me ask you a
mm,
question though. Was your bullying happening, first of all, physically, and secondly, in front of teachers and administration while they did nothing?
I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there with ISS where people have called me names, said things to me, threatened to say, "Yo, boy, I'll blow your brains up or do all kinds of stuff." This is an ISS now. I'm not, I believe y'all have ISS where y'all at, right? So they have it where certain kids. I'm like, "Yo, do they have an immunity card or is there some kind of thing going on that nobody gets on this kid like that?" I've seen that. Like I've seen that where there's some that are just way more favored than other children. So I've been there,
They put
but
their
I
hands
don't.
on you though in front of the administration and nothing happened.
Yeah, listen,
No,
listen.
I'm asking you for real.
Yeah, I've been there. Look, I'm saying I've been there. Like when I say I've been there, but I'm not. But I'm like, yo, I never said like, well, you know what? I possibly feel like, hey, I gotta go shoot up or anything like that. I'm like, I just said, hey, you know what? I just got to get through it. Tomorrow will be a better day. Find people that are like-minded friends like mine. Like I know, like a lot of people don't want to hear that, but you know, like
Because
there's
I
like
think you're missing an important point
but what am
though,
I missing? Because
BMT.
I was literally just like I hear the kid, but I'm like that's no reason to bring a gun to
Of
fear.
course it is. Why do you have a gun? Why does anyone who carries a gun in America have a gun? To defend themselves, right? To defend themselves against attackers and other people when no one is there to defend them. That's why you have a gun. You have a gun to defend yourself against somebody who means you serious harm in the middle of an attack when someone's going to come and beat you up and strip you naked and rob you, right? You have this gun to protect yourself.
So
So
okay,
literally there is a reason. In fact, there's a reason that is widely preached and widely accepted as being a valid reason in America.
okay. So here's the thing. So in looking at that and looking at that, what is it? Where was his mother, his grandfather, and his grand? Why did the system, which is his family, why didn't they step in rather than him stepping in with a gun?
Right.
That
That's the point. Where
okay.
look at the fight. Look at the fight and the previous fight that had already happened. His parents did go to the administration. But guess what? His parents couldn't stop it. The administration didn't stop it. Now it's happening directly in front of them. And guess what? They can't stop it. It's just going to keep happening to him. He tried the other ways. It's not like the bullying started last week. This has been an ongoing problem for months, for years. And he went about it all the other ways. And this kid just keeps escalating and keeps escalating and keeps escalating and is doing it right in front of the so-called authorities who are supposed to protect you, only they're not protecting you. So now what? You just keep letting it happen?
So so are we? So let's say he beats this, right? Let's say he
Mhm.
beats this trial. Some chance he beats this trial,
Mhm.
and another kid brings a gun to school and does the same thing.
Mhm.
Is that fair? That other people or kids people start bringing guns to school to deal with their bullies?
Do I think it's fair that kids are being left entirely unprotected and being terrorized in front of the authority figures you have left to supposedly protect them and care about them? No. So here's the problem, right? Is that these are kids and they're going to, and unfortunately, not only are they thinking like kids, they're thinking like the average red-blooded American. So now what we have to do is say, hey, listen, the school system is failing our kids. They are failing our kids. They are failing to protect them. It is one thing to bully. It's the one thing to tease and, verbal. You're keeping it verbal. Maybe you're playing pranks. It's one thing to do that. And it's supposed to be a zero tolerance thing. You put your hands on someone once, you shouldn't be going back to that school because the person you put your hands on needs to feel safe. So when we're not actually doing zero tolerance, when we're not following those rules, when we're protecting the people who are victimizing instead of protecting the victims, then is it fair? No, it's fair to nobody. including the person who brought a gun to school, because they should have been protected. They should never have gotten to the place where they actually legitimately, anybody, if you took this out of school and you just described this situation, you say a dude was walking home from work and he got the shit kicked out of him. They stripped him naked, maybe sexually assaulted him, and robbed him. And so that dude went to the store and got himself a gun to protect himself. Nobody would have a problem with that story. Nobody, right? And then if the same robbers came back to beat the shit out of that same guy again, and they started beating him up and threatening him again, and he pulled out a gun and he shot that robber, no one would have a problem with the story. So what I'm saying is, the issue is not even like, it's not like he did something acutely wrong or out of the norm or even out of what like society has guns for, right? The problem is that the system failed to do their job and intercede before it ever got to this, because it shouldn't be as dangerous for a kid going to school in the schoolyard as it is out walking, home late at night.
So I would ask this, because the reason why I see it's unfair, when I think of all the, because mind you, the LGBTQ just had their coming out day just yesterday. That's why I brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Then there should have been a mass of plenty of times that they should have done their dirt and shot up schools. And many times I've seen a lot of those kids get picked on and beat up. There should have been a thing where a lot of girls who dealt with colorism or body shaming, they should have gone and sliced up a lot of girls.
No, that's not the same
Hold on now,
argument.
hold on, Ruby. That's the case with, at the time when I was going to school, you was allowed to bring a gun. You could have a rifle racked, a rifle. If for anybody who went hunting, you could put that rifle in your in the back, as long as it could be seen by school authorities and the deputy and the sheriff. You could have it in the back of your truck. But I've never seen any of those boys. And we used to have a boy. We had a boy named Buckwheat. As many times as they picked on him, and he was a damn good sharpshooter. We done seen him shoot turkeys at the turkey shoot. Never, not one time have I ever seen Bucky go get that goddamn gun. Never. And I mean, one time they took paint and eggs and threw it on him.
Right. You're still diminishing what actually
I'm not
happened.
diminishing him. I'm just saying there comes a discipline.
It's
Like
not
there's a comes a
comparable.
discipline.
It's not
Go ahead.
comparable in
Go ahead.
society either. And this is why I said, listen, take the exact situation, just take it out of school and go put it on the street. Would anyone have a problem with what Simpkins did? Or would they be like, yeah, I understand, self-defense, right? And this is what I'm saying, right? Whereas in society, is it acceptable for us to shoot someone who eggs our house? No. No, it's not. Is it acceptable for us to shoot someone who calls us a name? No. Is it acceptable for us to shoot someone who hurts our feelings? No. There's a marked difference between someone who hurts your feelings, plays pranks on you, does embarrassing things, and then someone who literally puts you at physical harm and risk for your life. Like literally physically does this, physically beats you, strips you, and then tells you, yeah, you know what, bitch, I'm going to kill you. You are mine, and I'm proving my dominance, and I'm going to prove it in the classroom. I'm going to prove it in the school, prove you ain't scared of nobody. No one can control me. You have nowhere to hide, right? And I'm going to keep doing it over and over and over again. Every opportunity I get, even in the middle of class where you're supposed to be learning, I'm going to do it. Right. So my point is, that's a very different scenario than someone making fun of you and calling you names. It's a very different scenario than someone taking your sandwich while you're sitting there eating it, throwing it on the ground. It's very different. And we can't minimize what actually was happening in this young man's life, and say it's the same thing as, garden variety bullying, because it's actually not. The fact that this was able to happen. The fact that this was able to happen means the school system failed in such a massive way. They are so liable. They are so liable for this. And what should happen going forward right? Is not we should fry Timothy Simpkins to show all the other kids who are in a hopeless situation that, yeah, damn right, it's hopeless. You just keep letting those kids physically, sexually assault you whenever they want because there is no retaliation. No, the solution is for the school board to be held so liable, right, that the other school boards say, oh shit, we can't allow this to fly anymore. We can't. No, we have to actively do something about it and right the hell now. Not about the gun getting into the school, but about the behavior that's happening in the school, in the classrooms, in front of the teachers, and they're turning a blind eye to it while kids are being terrorized while trying to learn. It is
I
not
like
acceptable.
for me, I'm more so like with this pandemic and all this stuff going on, I don't know how much more you can want the school to do versus what the parents. Because if if that's my child, right, and my child is going through this, there's no way in hell I'm going back to work in this situation with my child is not being taken into is not being handled. You know, like my mom showed up one day and then another day and then came well you know what I'm saying? Like she kept coming and literally and we called forth the RSO and different other people. And that we kept handling the situation. And until after a while, the kid was put up for expulsion and put out of the school. Like if my parents and my grandparents are not going to fight for me, then that right there, I'm not going to see. I can only put so much on a school because your true safety net is your parents. Like the same way your parents can help you get a Dodge Charger car, can make sure you have money, bling, and everything else. Your safety should be the first tier above everything.
Right.
So that to me, rather than worry about making sure my child looks sharp and has a nice car, and I don't know why there ain't nobody questioning how he bought a gun. The 18-year-old ain't old enough to buy no handgun, so we ain't gonna run that gambit. So the fact that he had a handgun and nobody's questioning, so how did your child get a handgun? See,
Well,
I
let's talk
know.
about parents though, because where's his safety?
So if that's the case, and I'm just saying that as a parent, my child's safety comes before everything. And like I said, so if you knew that your child was stripped naked, why didn't you contact the news, the school board, and literally go down there to the superintendent? Why did you just stop? Why did you
Why
just
did
stop?
why did this mother not publicly humiliate her son, who probably begged her profusely not to publicly humiliate her, and she wasn't sure what to do and she had no one to turn to? Now, here's the thing. Unlike so many cases these days where we can say, where was the father? Why wasn't there a father in the home? There was a father in the home.
Yeah, there
And
was.
then his father was beaten to death, beaten to death. Okay. So the man that is the strength and is the safety in your household, the one you look up to, the one who's keeping you grounded and on the right track and whatever, the one who's been telling this woman her whole life what you do with sons. What don't worry, baby, I'll take care of it and whatever, right? Well, he gets beaten to death, right? So at this point, well, why didn't she know the perfect thing to do to try to balance the respect of the growing young man, right? And the safety of her kid? Well, she did do something, which is she went to the administration. The problem is when the administration lies to you and tells you they're going to take care of stuff that they don't take care of, then what? Right? Because as a parent, imagine. I just want you to think about this because most people send their kids to decent schools these days, right? I mean, the people that we tend to talk to, they've taken care to make sure their kids go to a decent school. And
Right.
so imagine, though, that your kid was having a problem in the classroom of some sort. And so your kid finally gives in and tells you. By the time your kids tell you anything, it's been months and it has gotten bad. They can't take it anymore. That's why they finally come to you. So now you feel terrible for your kid. You go to the administration, you talk to the teachers, okay? You come up with a 5-point plan. You think things are taken care of. only nothing changes for your kid, right? And initially your kid's not going to say anything because this is the way kids work. They work in secrecy. It's the way that they balance coming out of childhood and coming into adulthood, right? So, you're probably asking, well, how's everything? Oh, it's fine, whatever. Because they're seeing, they went to you, they tried that route and it didn't work for them. If anything, maybe things are a little bit worse now, right? And so the problem is that uh, for you to have found out all of the things that have been happening to your kid in the school, inside of the classroom. Imagine this happened to your kid. How disgusted and outraged would you be with the administration that they continually allowed this to happen over and over and over again in a place that you sent your kid and said, hey, listen, 8 hours. You guys only got to get this for 8 hours. And all you got to do is just keep them safe. Like, you don't have to do anything but keep them safe. That's it. And you're letting a kid stay inside that school to continually abuse my child
Like,
continually. And they're doing
so,
it in front of you. And there's no repercussions against that kid. None.
like, and shout out to everyone who's participating in the chat. Y'all are all putting in good information. This is a really good dialogue with me and Classic Ruby. Um, because, like I said, there's so many angles of this web. Um, I think even some students, there's so many angles towards bullying. This is an ongoing. I remember in the '90s there was a anti-bullying campaign. Then I remember there was an um, hey, stop the violence. I remember my daughter, she dealt with bullying. It was a boy picking on her. So, and I, I had to go to the school. I was there a few times, and after a while, they said, "Mr. Johnson, you just can't just show up to school. Why not? This is my child, and if I have to start making ways of if my child is getting harmed in this school, then we need to start looking at legal action. We need to start talking about some legal stuff happening because if that kid has enough time to put their hand on my child, and what you're telling me is that one, the RSO is not doing their job, and two, we need to know what is the pattern of where they're going, what is going on, where are they going, and what are they doing. All I'm
Yep.
saying, can I come up and can y'all drop me a link? Um, Topaz, y'all hang on a second. Classic Ruby, we're gonna knock this out really quick, and it's gonna be. And I know a lot of people want to talk about this as parents. I know Topaz wants to talk. Different people want to come up and talk about this situation, but this is a very serious situation. Especially, we're looking at a lot of men, women on social media that are that will possibly that are on. We have a lot of cyber stuff happening, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cyber things going on
Right.
that people are getting their strength to where they're now going online to find a place to fit in at to where they can feel safe, to where they can um, have feel like, hey, I'm not alone. That's why I worried. That's why I brought this up to Classic Ruby a few days earlier because we do know a lot of people are going to. It threw me off because I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer, and I like to play video games. Um, I was watching in the gaming community online, Ruby, right? If you can hear me,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about it, and they started talking about their bullying experiences. These are grown men and some women, and there are also some teens in the chat, and some of them started talking about guns, and these people are well efficient about knowing about firearms and guns and stuff like that. And one of them's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I had a gun in my backpack earlier." And some of us that were adults, like, "Hey, whatever you're going through, it's not worth throwing your life away. Like, we don't want you to throw your life away for that one stupid mistake. But that was a
Mm-hmm.
guy in our chat talking to us about a situation he was going through that he was thinking about bringing a gun to his school in our chat.
Mm-hmm.
So we do know some of them are going to social media or different harbors. They're watching. They're probably listening to us right now. And they're listening to how people are empathetic or probably or how they speak about this. Like, well, if he got cheered on about dealing with his bully, what does that mean for me? Or if she was picked on about because she was a member of the LGBTQ, and nobody defended her, does that make it right that I defend myself? You see,
Well,
these things, I'm just saying, like, that's the only thing I'm pulling out. Like,
but the
everything
thing
has
is,
a
what's
cause and effect duality.
fallacious?
Go ahead.
It's a fallacious argument. It's a fallacious argument, and we need to stop doing it because the thing is, and I'm going to be real. I know it's you don't do this, BMT, but I'm going to say, on average, the problem is that when we see it in any group but ours, and for those of y'all who are not Black, I'm talking about the Black community, right? Then we look at the age and we understand the development of the brain and this and that, and oh my God, and we have all this empathy for these kids who sometimes are doing horrific things on purpose. They are intentionally trying to do horrific things because they played too much Grand Theft Auto or whatever. But when we see specific situations in our community that are they end up in a very terrible way. But when you look at the scenario, is it because the kid is a bad kid, or is it because the kid was in a bad situation that honestly they should not have been in? Because when we look at that and we go, listen, this kid was in a bad situation that they shouldn't have been in, and they reacted to the immediate threat and situation that's in front of them. Well, then, and this is why I said, no, then we got to look at the administration. We got to look at the schools and say, they're culpable. They're culpable because no kid should be going to school and sitting in the middle of the classroom trying to learn, and they're under the threat of being physically assaulted and sexually assaulted. That should not be a thing. And it should not be a consistent thing. It should not be a day-to-day thing. And it should definitely not be a thing that if it happens once, the same kid stays in school and it can happen again. It just shouldn't be the case. And so when we're talking about this, I'm not cheering on Timothy Simpkins at all. I'm not saying, oh, yay, he's a great kid and he did right. No, that's not what I'm saying, right? But is he a
Right.
school shooter? No, he is not a school shooter. He didn't sit there and write a hit list of a bunch of kids and, get himself all armed up to the gills. And then, hey, once he opened fire, that's it. He's just turning and going for everybody. And no, that's not what happened. The kid was under threat and he shot at the kid who has been consistently threatening him and is now threatening him with a new vengeance and a new hate in his eyes. Nichelle said it inside the chat room a little bit earlier that the kid who got shot, right, he had heard the police were looking for him. So who did he blame? He blamed Timothy Simpkins. So who did he come for? Timothy Simpkins. Without provocation, without warning, you are just trying to live your life. Okay. And see, that is seriously problematic. And again, we're having two different conversations when we're talking about bullying and what happened with Timothy Simpkins, because to me, again, there's a difference. You're teasing, even honestly, I mean, I think kids are evil. I do. I say it all the time. I would never go back to being a teenage girl ever. Kids are evil. But there's a difference between all of those words, all of that talk, all that ostracizing people and whatever. And then once you cross the line and you put your hands on someone, not in a mutual combat to blow off steam, but to terrorize what everyone is talking about, as you said earlier, he's a nerd. He's not into fighting, right? He's probably very non-violent, if anything, because his dad died in a fight. Well, actually, we don't really know the full details. So I was trying to find the full story, but I haven't been able to find it yet, right? But he died from, physical punching, kicking, whatever. So he's probably very non-violent, but he's also a nerd. He's the nerdy kid. They've been talking a lot about it in the media, actually. It's basically kind of going under the radar, but they're talking about this a lot. And they actually did a movie recently, too. I wish I could remember what it was called. where basically it's like, oh, you're a really smart kid. You're not into the physical stuff and you're not into pop culture or trying to fit in. You're really at school to learn because you're a smart kid and whatever. You're going to have a hard time in some neighborhoods, in some schools. And why? Well, it's normally because the majority of the kids inside of your school aren't as smart as you, and there aren't the resources or the parents there for a variety of reasons to encourage them and to help them. They're going through a lot at home as well. And so, they see a kid like Timothy Simpkins, who's really smart and is going places and whatever, and doesn't need to sell drugs and do this and whatever, right? Doesn't care about the social clout. And it's so threatening to them mentally and emotionally, right? So they lash out at it. And it's very dangerous. And I can't remember what the movie's called, but it's like a true story of this one woman's fight to get her kid into a good school, because that's literally what happened to her kid. And then he got the shit kicked out of him. He was always running home for threat of real violence, like beat you down and hope you live kind of violence, because he just wanted to learn. He was just a nerdy kid. He's not physical, right? And so, and this is why, I'm not saying, well, there should only be protection for the nerdy kids. I'm saying that the classroom is the last place you should be scared your kid is inside, right? That's the place they're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be learning.
Right. Right. Um, he was bullied. Eric, shout out to Eric. Eric said he was bullied. He was bullied, beat up by a bully, got a gun, and even with said bully. Thank you,
That's not,
Eric.
it's not exactly what
Eric.
happened, though, Eric. If you watch the video, the bully beat the shit out of him moments before he went into his bag and grabbed the gun and then shot the bully. So it wasn't like a vendetta. He had been sitting there planning and walked into the school to get back at the bully. The bully came for him again, and he was carrying around the gun for protection. So
Now, one of the things about it is, and I want to look at that. Timothy did not come, and I'm gonna say this: Timothy didn't come from a broken home. He didn't.
nope.
He didn't come from a broken home. There was a man in the home. I know y'all. I know it wasn't his father, but a grandfather is just as good as a father. Doesn't replace the father, but it is a damn sure as a father. And I'm saying that, and I'm saying that in a sense because I know plenty of granddads who have stepped in and did the best they damn could to raise their to raise their their grandsons and their granddaughters and stuff. So I would want to say that, you know, if that was something that he was doing, was raising his his child, and I think he probably had a talk with his grandchild about, about the bullying. Um, this is just something that, you know, as from one young man to an older man, if he had mental health issues, if he had stress and problems and all that stuff going on, I'm gonna be honest, like that granddaddy that was there, that was probably the time for him to probably have the conversation with his grandson, about being a young man and understanding the ramifications of what he did. Now, I'm being I hear what Ruby's saying, but that young man is 18. That young man is 18 years old, and he made a man's decision. I know y'all gonna say, well, he's still a teenager, but you stop being a boy when you pull out a gun. That was something another
Yeah,
man told. No, 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 we're not gonna do that. You
I
stop being
disagree.
you stop being a child when you draw a gun out.
Absolutely disagree.
You stop being no, Ruby, because see,
Yeah.
it's one thing. Because when you're starting to say, I'm going to pull out a gun and shooting, you're stepping out of a child's lane. You're
Yeah,
stepping
but
out.
see, the thing is, though, right? We as adults love to do this, right? We
Okay,
like
go
to
ahead.
take what we think and feel now in our grown ass selves, fully formed brain cells, right? We like to take that and then cast that backwards onto far younger than us people as though the child's mind works that way, when in truth, it doesn't at all, right? Which is why you've got one of our 12-year-olds, right, was locked up for life for doing a very similar thing. He brought a gun to school because he was being terrorized by a bunch of kids, right? And then he ended up shooting a teacher accidentally. And then they decided to lock him up for life. And then they said, okay, well, no, we won't lock you for life, because they changed the laws. So you couldn't lock up children for life anymore. But by the time they let him out of jail, he was already so institutionalized, he just got himself sent right back. But my point is, right, is that the 12-year-old who pulled out a gun because he was scared and TV told him and he heard in the hood and you get a gun and then people think you're badass and it'll keep you safe. And they're not thinking like adults. It doesn't matter that they brought a gun, because you have to look at the mind, right? Because the mind is the mind thinking rationally and functionally like an adult's mind, or is this still thinking from a child's mind? Because children do all kinds of stuff that adults do. But guess what? They're still children doing it. And that's why we have age of consent laws. Because just because you might want to jump into the sack with someone doesn't mean that you are making the same informed adult rational decision that the 27-year-old is when you're 14.
Why wasn't that kid thinking like an adult? It always amazes me. And I'm just saying, this kid busted, this kid shot, as y'all want to call him a kid, 18-year-old, in a nice high school, from a nice home, from a well-to-do living. Me and the show covered all of this stuff. This kid wasn't broke. This kid had money. This kid had all kinds of means. Kid come from a private school, had all kinds of stuff going on good in his life, except for the bullying part. And I'm sorry if his life wasn't spick and span and clean, even down to the point where he got a gun. I don't know that many people that literally, after shooting in a school, hop in a Dodge Challenger, ride off, and then turn themselves in with an attorney. I yet have ever heard of anybody that's a school shooter that has done that.
Because he's
But
not a school shooter.
whoa, whoa,
But you
whoa,
know who
whoa,
we have heard
listen,
do that?
you
You know
don't.
who we have heard do that?
So when you're
Lots and
shooting in
lots
a
and lots of
school,
people.
so when you're shooting in a school, if you're shooting in a school, what are you called?
It depends. Why are
No,
you
no, no,
shooting
don't
in
do
the
that.
school? Oh
If
no, it
you're
does depend.
shooting
Is
in
a
a
security
school,
guard a school shooter for shooting someone
really,
who's in there to start?
you're trying to
No,
say a security
because
guard is a school shooter? Are we
no,
trying to say a
actually,
security
I'm
guard?
literally no. That's what you're saying. You're saying if you shoot in a school, you are a school shooter. I'm
Well,
saying no. That
if
definition
you're
doesn't hold.
if somebody were to go into a school and shoot, right, with a gun that they brought into their car, and they take that gun out of their car into the school and shoot in the school, and they hit multiple people, that is a school shooter. I'm sorry, but that is a school shooter. The person that's a security guard that is licensed and also by law that has the proper certification to be there, that right there, that person has the right to be there with their firearm. That
Right, but
that
again,
student.
why? No, you can't. You can't dismiss why the gun was there. You
What?
can't. You're dismissing
Okay. So
why did the
what
kid
legal
bring
reason
the
did he have
gun
a reason
into
to bring
the
a gun to
school?
school?
What was his intention?
So
What was his
so
intention? His intention is very
there
clear.
is okay. Listen, you're never gonna find any jury in their right mind. Well, I don't know, probably 2021, probably, that can possibly say yes. You have the right to bring a students have the right to bring guns to school. Like, there is no jury in this
I
day and
didn't
age
say
that
that
is
they
going.
did. What I
No.
said was, no, I didn't say that they had a right to bring a weapon onto school property. That's not what I said. What I said was, why did he bring the gun onto school property? Because there's a difference between a kid who brings guns onto school property with the effort to mow down all his classmates because life is hard, and a kid who puts a gun in his backpack because he knows
Okay.
there's this one kid who is
Okay.
physically and sexually terrorizing him. There's a
So why
difference.
didn't so I
There's
got
a
a question.
marked
I got a
difference.
question. Why didn't he, if he felt so threatened, why didn't he tell other people, hey, now most people that literally are going to be doing the school shooting and stuff, they at least allow the other kids to know, hey, I got a gun. that probably they actually fuck with. Why didn't he tell anybody that he had a gun?
Because he wasn't, see, that's what I'm saying. School shooters are doing something like, it's like, oh, you've never noticed me, you're gonna notice me now, bitch, and stuff like that, right? And their goal, another big thing with school shooters is their goal is to just take down as many people as possible, like it's a video game. So the person they tend to tell are people they want to leave the school premises immediately, like you need to go home because it's about to get ugly, kind of thing. Now, the difference between those kids and Timothy Simpkins is he didn't bring the gun to school to mow down a bunch of kids today. He had the gun inside of his backpack. We don't even know for how many days at this point, because he had it there for self-defense, for protection. Why? Because there is a kid in his school that the school is doing nothing about that is threatening his life and physically terrorizing him, physically assaulting him,
Let
and
me
is
get it straight.
escalating every time.
Wait. So let's see this. If he had the money, then I'm this is where it blows my mind. You had the money after you shit up the school to go get legal representation, but you don't got the money to go sue a kid or a group of kids that are assaulting you. See, that's where I'm starting to lose. That's
Uh,
why I'd be like, wait,
okay,
hold up.
well then,
How
no,
did
you're
you
wrong though.
how did you go
You,
get legal representation after you shoot a gun at people in the school, right? But
it
you
seems
did
like they
not
actually
think
must
to
know the
go
lawyer.
sue. Hold on now.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay, hold on now. He did went and got legal representation after
But,
shooting up a school.
but,
So, but you didn't think to go, hey, maybe I might need to go lawyer up or get a lawyer and say, hey, I'm going to press charges for you. Because mind you, I have seen kids sue their parents. I have seen kids sue the school for just using the bathroom. So
okay.
you mean to tell me you can't sue the school or sue these people?
But, and yeah,
Exactly.
there's two big points. But number one is they don't actually have the money for that lawyer, and this is why the lawyer started a GoFundMe to help pay for like her own legal fees, and then GoFundMe removed the GoFundMe. But the point is, no, they actually don't have money to retain that lawyer. So I'm going to assume that there must be some type of personal connection. Maybe the personal connection has something to do with the death of the father. I don't know, but it seems as though they had a personal connection, which is why she decided to initially help them and then started a GoFundMe for them to try to get her legal fees paid. But of course, GoFundMe took it down because, the situation. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is this. The 17-year-old or 16-year-old or 14-year-old or 18-year-old or 22-year-old, they're not the person who thinks of suing anybody. They're not, right? The person who thinks of suing somebody are the parents who were born and raised and now have been living contentedly for probably decades in a world where you sue people when you're unhappy, right? And it's just a normal thing. It's a normal go-to. Well, I'm going to go here and then I'm going to escalate it to your manager. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to sue. Right? It's a whole culture. It's a whole mentality. So if you weren't born and raised with that mentality and that culture, first of all, it's not going to be the very first thing you're going to think of. Second of all, you're not going to think that you could sue for just about any damn thing on the planet, because let's be real, there's only one demographic who thinks to sue people for everything under the sun, and it's actually a plausible defense. But third of all, and here's the most important thing, is that they actually didn't have extraneous amounts of money to just go and hire a lawyer for a civil suit that would last who knows how long. They didn't, because again, like I said, the lawyer actually put up a GoFundMe suggesting, obviously, that she can't be paid otherwise. So therefore,
I
why?
mean,
Well, yeah,
but there was
the
to be
answers are pretty
fair,
simple.
there was a GoFundMe for the young man up there and who was that shooter up there and
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
during the
Yeah.
riot. I mean, he had a whole guy. Listen, a lot of people get GoFundMe now. So the GoFundMe thing, but
No,
what
but I'm
blew
saying,
my mind.
but I'm telling you who started the GoFundMe. It wasn't the mother. The lawyer started a GoFundMe.
Listen,
Is
I
what I'm
mean, hey,
saying.
if it's free money out there, go get it, baby. Go get that free money. But
Right.
I'm
But she
just saying,
started it
if
because
there's
she
free
can't
money
get
out
paid
there, go get
otherwise.
it. I know it's messed up to say, but if there's free money out there, go get it. And like I said, the only thing, what threw me off was they had a doggone they had a party for him when he got out. They had a party for when he got out of holding. And I'm like, wait a second. Y'all throwing this guy a party for like shooting in a school? What?
Do you think
What?
maybe they threw him a party if they did? Because
Yes.
I haven't heard of any of that. But do you think
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
they threw him a party because
He
he's
got a
not going to
party.
be? Do you want to let me finish?
Go
They
ahead,
they
please.
maybe threw the party because instead of holding him throughout the entire trial, they actually got him out so that way at least he can be on bond while waiting through all of this. Because I don't know, but I'm telling you, and I'm just being real, as a Black person, even in Canada, let alone in America, I wouldn't think my chances were too good getting out on bond or on a bond that I in any way could afford would be particularly high. In fact, I think the likelihood is I'm stuck in jail. So therefore, I would say that that would be something I would be really excited about. Holy shit, yeah, we got you out. Okay, good. At least you're out on bond. Okay, so you just this is a good thing. So I'm gonna guess that they're probably more so celebrating that.
I'm going to say something that's probably going to get a lot of people looking at me crazy and get me in trouble, but I don't give a damn. Y'all get mad at any time for stuff. A lot of people, before they showed who this person was, everybody thought this was a white kid. If they did not show Timothy's face, they just gave you a reference of the background, told you about the amount of money his family had, the school, everything, and said everything that he did, they would have believed that this was a white kid. They would have gone with this was a white kid. But the fact that this black kid, literally, he's breaking all the algorithms of what, hold up. Well, he must be in a broken home. Well, no, he's not. He's actually in a intact home where it has a family support system. He must have come from in poverty. No, he actually is. He got more money than a lot of y'all got.
That is semi-true though. It
He
is
must be
semi-true.
do drugs. No, listen. Everything of what they want to say about this kid, about this
Except
guy, because
but it is
literally
semi-true though.
he's the opposite of what they think or they can use.
But you know, if you look at the fact, right, that life cycles and life strategy cycles, your experiences, trauma set in very early, right? Luckily, yeah, he's being raised by his grandparents, which is a great thing. And so they were able to kind of, you know, get him on track and keep him there. And I mean, he's a bright, bright student, was excelling in school. Like, you know, scholarships were on the horizon and whatever. He's a great student. And so he was actually living up to that until he started being terrorized, obviously. But even then, he didn't let his grades drop. Now, with that being said, though, when we're going to talk about what he was born into, like I said, his father was beaten to death. His mother was a drug addict, which is why his grandparents have him. Now, with that being said, right? I mean, those are not great circumstances or situations. I'm gonna guess that what happened is people found out that his father was beaten to death and his mom was a drug addict and was in prison actually at the time that his grandparents took custody of him. So I'm gonna guess people kind of got that story together and then said, oh, well, now we know his whole life, right? That is part of his life story. That is part of the experiences and circumstances he's gone through and had to live through in his life. And I mean, for those who have had parents who are addicted to drugs, I know that a lot of the stories aren't super pretty, right? Just adding to this trauma, right? And so now you've got a kid who has gotten into no trouble. He's not the kid who's getting into trouble all the time, who's acting out, who's acting all crazy, who's doing terrible things. He's not that kid. He's not. And all of his classmates were saying, no, he was terrorized. He was bullied pretty badly. It was pretty bad. We were wondering why someone wouldn't do something about it. Right? Now you got students who are willing to open their mouths and say that, you know, it was bad. Bad. If it wasn't that bad, they wouldn't have said anything. It was bad. Okay. And so now you got that type of situation. The authorities aren't doing anything about it. And when I say the authorities, I mean the school. The problem is, right, is if you go and you report something or it's happening in front of the administration, it's happening in front of them. Why didn't they call the police? Right? Because if a black kid beat the living shit out of a white kid. Right? I'm just being real. In a predominantly white school, guess who's going to jail today? You wouldn't need the kids to testify or the parents to come and show up and whatever. And this is why I'm saying, no, the school failed miserably. Now,
So, mhm.
am I saying that he should get no punishment, no time? No, right? Now, no one's died. Looks like no one's gonna die, right? So should he go to jail for 25 to life? No, of course not. I wouldn't think that anyway. But no one did die. The arguable facts are no one died. The arguable facts are is that he was defending himself. Now, were there a whole bunch of very unwise decisions that he made in the course of terror and trauma, wanting to defend himself so that way what happened to him before didn't happen again? He made a lot of bad decisions. Should he lose his whole life over it? No, I don't think so. And this is where I think therapy could be of really great value. Not institutionalizing him would be of even better value. And so I think that if he gets a sentence that involves jail time, which, let's be honest, in this exact circumstance, the average white kid would not. But if he gets a sentence that involves jail time, I think it should be somewhere that's therapeutic in nature, as in somewhere that is actually going to help him work through his trauma and work through the decisions he made, work through the definitive guilt and self-blame and whatever that he's going to go through. So that way, when he comes out, he's better for it. That's what I think should happen with this particular kid, given the circumstances.
You know, I wonder if the other people who got shot by him, I wonder what they're gonna get. Like, are they gonna get um any of the therapy paid for? Are the kids that living in that classroom that dealt with that? Are they gonna get paid for their traumas? Like, what
Hey
are the
man, your tax
people?
dollars are going to pay for some. Here's what it comes down to. And only
Okay.
America
Um,
doesn't understand this. Your tax dollars are going to pay for Timothy Simpkins, regardless of where he goes. So now
okay.
the question is this: do you want your tax dollars to pay to make an institutionalized criminal that isn't an institutionalized criminal now? He's not that kid. It's not like he's some bad gang banging kid. Da, 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 da. No, he's a good kid who made a bad choice given that he was being terrorized, right? So now, do you want your tax dollars to go into making a hardened criminal? Or do you want your tax dollars to go into rehabilitation? Because that's really your tax dollars are going to be paying for it anyway, one way or the other.
Okay. Yeah. Fair. And you saying that. Fair. And you saying all that. And like I said, and this is a balanced conversation. Like I said, uh, regardless of which, because I grew up I grew up in the '80s crack era. Some kids chose to sell. Some kids chose to, hey, I gotta just run from my house to the school. I don't want to sell drugs, and it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
We hear guys online talking about how that they were picked on because they couldn't get girls or different stuff. Some women dealt with cover. A lot of you're gonna always have some kind of adversity. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
always have some adversity. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Friday. Shout out to the scene in Friday with Craig, and Pops. And when Craig dad walked in and found Craig with a gun, he said, "Son, what you got a gun for?" "I gotta walk Smokey home." And he was like, "Son, we would have never moved in here if you had to use a goddamn gun." He said, "You see your hands? You might get your ass whooped, but damn it, you know what? You win some, you lose some, but you keep your respect, you keep your pride." And I think that's the thing about a lot of young adults are not learning is to have some kind of respect for themselves. And I'm not taking away from what those people did to them. I think that they should be prosecuted. They should go to jail. I think that, hey, that they should be held accountable. But I'm also in the same way that, hey, I fought plenty of people in school. I took my licks, but I kept fighting and I kept fighting. After a while, they start saying, yo, leave Joe alone. We
Mhm.
might be able to punch him or kick him in the hallway, but that little nigga is gonna get us at the bus stop. That dude's gonna get us at art room. I was coming. I listen. I was gonna get you
You don't
sometime.
even catch what you're saying. It's crazy. You're not
Yeah,
even catching what you're saying, and
I
because
am
it's
catching
exactly
what
the
you're
point
saying.
that I'm making, but
I
you're
never
not
went and
catching you're
got a
saying
gun.
it.
I had my hands, and I
No,
was
that's not what
playing
I'm saying.
Streets of Rage on anybody that wanted those hands.
No, that's not what I was saying though. And you're not realizing that you keep saying it, and every example you bring up says it, right? And I mean, even in my case, right? I was a brawler. I fought a lot. Now, here's the thing: what everyone knew you couldn't do is fight in school, not inside of school, right? Not in the hallways, not in the classrooms. That's not where you fought, right? You fought outside of school. You fought at the bus stop. For us, we had the hydro poles, the most dangerous places to walk home, right? So you got to run to your house from your house to the school and from the school to your house. But as long as you got into those two buildings, you were good. You were good. My issue with this whole situation is that that should still hold true. Except it didn't hold true. Except the problem is that all of this terrorism, all of the bullying, all of the assaults were happening inside of the school, inside of it, in it, in front of the administration, in front of the teachers, inside of it. And see, the thing is, the
Now,
very
who's
large
saying? Now,
majority of
I
us,
got a
maybe
question. Now, hold
some
on,
of
really.
y'all,
Who's saying that this all happened in front of the teachers and stuff?
um,
He is, or the teachers are saying that
the
they witnessed
students,
it.
the,
The
the
student.
students have said, well, yeah, the teachers aren't talking. They're not allowed to, right? But I mean, first of all, you have video number one that's literally inside of the classroom. So, I mean, just in case, but the students are commenting and saying that it was happening inside of the classroom,
Now,
inside of the cafeteria, on school grounds, inside. And so this is where my issue then comes in. And this is
what?
where, when I look at it, this is where I've decided, right? And not analyzing it, I'm like, yeah, no, I kind of get it because there isn't anywhere safe. You have to go to
Now,
school.
okay, but I'm saying, okay, I'm hearing you saying that, right? But I had shout out to those students that came to my. They were in my chat that same day that we were reporting on it live. A lot of them said, "Yo, first of all, we didn't know who the hell he was, and second of all, like, fuck that kid. The kid was shooting and ruin it. Like a lot of those kids were angry at him. Like they
You
weren't
mean the kids who don't know
siding
him?
with him.
Right. The kids who don't know him. Because the thing is, right, is that I went to a school with lots of people I didn't know. So yeah, I don't give a shit about them. So you have to, the kids who are talking about it are the kids who knew about the scenario, knew about the situation, knew Timothy, knew of the victim who got shot. They knew, some of them who were inside the classroom. To me, the kids who were like, well, I'm not even in that school, but they're ruining it for the rest of us, right?
Well,
To me, that's not more valid than the experiences of people who know these kids, right? And who were there,
right
who were there for any one of the situations, including obviously the one on the day of the shooting. So I mean, I think we have to be careful to understand the fact that as people, right? Like, okay, I think this, okay, and I've heard people say this about January 6th, right? That they went, right? And they didn't do any of this bullshit, right? That's what they were there for, right? They talked to people, they had little, sit downs and meetings, they sang songs, they waved their flags, they were good. They didn't even, they were on the other side. They didn't even know all that craziness was happening, right? And I've heard people be, first of all, either deny that it happened at all because they can't even imagine because they weren't part of that and no one that they knew went there for that, right? But then the people who are infuriated at the people that turned what they were doing into that, right? And so now I think that from the outside looking in, it's a very different opinion than the people who were on that side, right? The people who were literally in the middle of the fray, the people who made those decisions, right? Um, it's different from the outside looking in versus being literally in the middle of the thick of it all. Even though it's all the exact same event. So I'm just saying, I think that we have to be careful though with this one because if we aren't careful, we're this is going to continue to stand inside of schools if we don't hold the school accountable for what they were allowing to happen on their ground. What was continually happening inside of their school to a student
So
over and over
what?
and over again.
So what? So how much influence does the school need to do? Because it seems like, and we're hearing from also from the teachers, like, yo, like a lot of these stuff, like, like, is the parents going to be fighting, or is, if you got to wear, if the parents ain't going to be fighting for their kid, but this is how the kids are going to say, well, this is how I need to fight for myself, is, by doing this. I don't know, like, shit, it's an uphill shit show situation, and you know it just seems bad all around, man. It just seems bad all around. Seriously, I couldn't even imagine. Um,
I
like I
think,
said,
you know
I
what?
don't. Yeah.
I think we have to, and this is why I actually care what narrative is out there, honestly, right? Because unless people recognize what the problem was, it's very easy. And in fact, I'm positive the school board's going to do it. And I already see the narratives trying to be inserted in there. And luckily, there are just more voices that were present that are saying the exact opposite. Right, and everything from Simpkins was the aggressor in the video, to he's a bad kid anyway, to this, that. The problem is, right, if we place all the blame on this kid, fine, he turned 18 this year. Congratulations. It's not a magical number. Like, as soon as you turn 18, you're just magically adult now. I think it's an arbitrary number we chose. Right? He's not that much different from 6 months ago. Let's be real. But now, with that being said, right, he's still, all of his friends are school age. He's still school aged. And what it comes down to is we put everything on him and we ignore all of these other factors, right? Well, then we have a demon. We have a demon we can blame. We have a demon we can come out with our pitchforks and we can try to throw under the jail. And then we feel like the solution has been gotten, right? And then we're good, and we don't care about all the other details. And so this is why I think and I know we love that simple answer. There's one demon, you get rid of the demon, everyone's fine, right? It's a simple, easy answer that makes us feel the safest. But the fact of the matter is, it's not true. And we have to recognize that this is a real problem. Ultimately, listen, guns are going nowhere in America. There's not. Right? I mean, honestly, it does not matter how many schools lose hundreds of kids in school shootings. Guns rights are going nowhere. They're not even going to crack down on them, not even a little bit. Right? I mean, we've watched it happen over and over and over again. So let's be real. That's what it is. Now you can, I don't even want to say this, but now there's other ways of obtaining a gun other than walking into a gun store. For real. And it's totally legal. And anyone can get it. And I don't want to advertise it. But for real, there is. So now here's the problem. You can blame the gun, but is the problem the gun? Because had that kid, the kid who was terrorized constantly, right? Let's say the administration did something. Let's say the police were called, or the school kicked that kid out, or whatever. You think Timothy would have brought a gun to school? I don't think so. You know why? Because he never did before. Because he's not that kid. He's not the kid who's messing around with guns and trying to be cool and da 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 da. He's a nerd. He likes to study. He's probably was gonna get a Harvard scholarship or something. He's a good kid. He's excelling in school. That's what he does, right? Why did he get the gun? Because he was terrified. Why was he terrified? Because a kid who was much more brutal, much more violent than him decided he didn't like his face, and then decided to terrorize him and physically abuse him, right? And God knows what else. Because listen, I hear it a lot, and I'm being real. Women versus men, grown men or young men, right? You come for them and sexually abuse them in a way. You are doing something to the mind of that man. It's a totally different level of threat and fear at that point. It's a totally different mentality that is happening in the mind of that man at that point. And actually, I remember SVU covered it. Like they did a show on it, but like, SVU always pulls stuff out of the headlines. And what was happening is there was a guy and he was a serial rapist, really, um, against men. And what happened was the men, it took them a very long time to figure out that this was a sexual predator because the men were all lying and just saying they were robbed, right? Oh, he just beat me up for no reason. No, I was robbed. They weren't talking about this one crucial factor, and including the fact that they could have collected DNA at the time. But the guys were so ashamed. And then what ended up happening invariably is one of the victims saw the guy. And what did he do? He pulled his brand new gun out of his pocket and shot him dead. Now, yeah, yeah, because you know what? Men, like you took his manhood, he has to get it back. You know what I mean? Like we're looking at so many other factors with this story. And that's why I said, I'm like, this is not the average case of, well, they don't like you. They pick on you and tell you your shirt is ugly. A lot of things were happening. A lot of things were happening. This is not okay. And it was happening on school grounds. So you're not even safe at school. So you're basically like in a constant war zone, except for when you're at home. But you have to keep leaving and you have to keep showing up at this place where the threat lives and where no one will protect you. That should not be any kid's reality. And if it was his reality, guess what? Them cracking down and getting those metal detectors so they could take the guns away from the kids, that's not going to stop the kids being terrorized inside of the building. Something has to be done, right? There has to be zero tolerance. It's like, what's his name? Joe Clark. I love what Joe Clark did. Joe Clark is a movie, obviously. But I love what he did. All right, all you terrorists, get out. We're gonna lock those doors with chains. Kids should be able to sit down for 8 hours and just learn without being terrorized, without being in fear. We understood that like in the 80s. Why don't we understand that now?
Like I said, and like I said, y'all, this was a very good dialogue. I definitely enjoyed both sides of it. I only wanted to go for just 1 hour and some change with my road dog, Classic Ruby. I know she's tired, and I know I have my thing, and we wanted to hit it from different pinpoint sides. We definitely appreciate the dialogue in the chat room. It definitely was a mixed bag of people.
Yeah,
That
you guys
definitely
have
went.
been awesome. The comments in the
Uh,
chat. Oh, love you guys. So good.
you know what I'm saying? So I know a lot of people wanted this to be a panel. We just couldn't do a panel today. Um, we wanted to just knock this out on this conversation dialogue. I will hit up um I will probably hit up Topaz and try to hit up Ruby, see if I can try to get them two minds together. Um,
Yeah,
it,
Topaz is always a good time.
yeah, yeah, like I said, the shout out to HT. That's the same story of a lot of school shooters. Most of them are misfits that were bullied. Um, like I said, it was a very interesting
Bro,
dialogue.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me ask you a question, BMT, really quick. So after the trench coat mafia, right? We had kids because I mean it was like a style like here in Canada. I don't know if it was in
Where the
America too, but
dusters?
yeah, right. Those long and yeah, and all that. It was a whole style with the gun,
Yes, I
bro.
remember that.
Do you know how nice I was to those kids the next year? I'm not even lying.
I
After that
do.
shit,
I
you know how
remember that
nice.
there was a lot of white kids coming to school. There were so many of them goddamn emo gothic kids coming to school. And then after that, I remember the one school shooting with the kid that came to school. And I don't know how the fuck he fit that many guns in his goddamn jacket, but shit. Motherfucker had a
Stop
whole arsenal.
saying,
So I'm just saying,
yo.
but you know what? Thank God I was one of those good kids. He was like, I've been in school when there was knives. I've been in school when there was guns brought into school. And I always make sure I talked my shit, but I never went around to go pick fights and go start shit with people. But I already had it hard enough. Um, so I mean, one kid he had a gun and he came after school and he told everybody in the wrestling team and some of the kids in the art class, all of
Mm-hmm.
y'all never fucked with me or did me wrong. All of y'all, please just get the fuck out. I grabbed two
Hmm.
girls and I grabbed my friend and I said, let's just go. Like, well, I gotta get my backpack. Fuck your backpack, dude. Like, we can come get that shit later if it's still here. Fuck it. And we ran out through the side door and we just ran a lot. It was like had to be like 30 of us, but at the school, just we were still there. But he had
Right.
a problem. He didn't shoot the kid, but he scared the shit out of the kid. Of course, he got arrested. Of course, he got expelled from the school. I think he got expulsion. He went to mental health. But,
Mm.
um, but yeah, I've
And
been in
if
those
I could just
situations.
clarify something, because people might not understand this also. So, because I'm from Canada, right? So there's no way I could possibly understand any of this. So we had a bunch of different schools. I went to two separate high schools, two completely different experiences. 'Cause one of them was the rich white school. Once I got so high, I'm not even kidding, and my brain started dying because it was laced with something I was allergic to. And I was causing havoc around that school. And eventually, and everyone was made out of Play-Doh. And like I was blanking out for hours, but walking around apparently and everything. And I was scared, and I was like, call the ambulance. And then I started smoking in the middle of the school. I just lit a cigarette, and then the principal came out. Principal hates me. He's like, why don't we go stand outside and do that? I'm like, okay, but I want an ambulance. He's like, yeah, let's go outside and talk about the ambulance. Yo, he was never going to call an ambulance. I called the ambulance myself eventually, before literally falling over. Then at that point, they called. But, it's a completely different scenario because they're not trying to penalize the kids, right? They're trying to hide everything, right? Keep their school in the best of all standings. And then there are other schools. And so the school that was right down the road from my house, my little cousin went to that school, and that school was on lockdown. I'm going to say at least once a week, honestly, at least once a week. For all 4 years she went to high school, and for years before that, that school was always on lockdown. And it was always on lockdown because it's not like they would find a gun on someone. No, there was always drive-bys and stuff like that and whatever, right? Now you would think, therefore, I might be, um, a, have a different opinion. But here's the thing: the kids were not concerned. And the reason why they weren't concerned, like they were annoyed it was going to impede their lives. They weren't concerned because what they figured out early in was that, well, no, someone just came to the school to kill one person, right? So as long as you're not where that person is, you're fine, right? Like this was not, again, it wasn't the case of a school shooter where someone's going to stalk through the halls and kill every student they see, right? Um, and so it is a different scenario. Now, do I think that, and so now I've taken it out of the situation I clearly have a lot of empathy for, and I'm comparing these two things. I still wouldn't call that kid who showed up at the school to kill whoever, I wouldn't call him a school shooter, even if he ended up accidentally hitting more than one person, right? Because I think that there's a difference between someone who is intentionally aiming to take out all these kids and then the person who, is accidentally hit more people, but really is only trying to take out one. Now, does that make his crime better? Well, no, it doesn't make his crime better. Of course not, right? Like he showed up at a school. He is reckless endangerment at best, even if he didn't hit anyone else, right? On top of the crime he actually committed. Um, so I want to be clear about that, right? It's not to say that this is not a crime to pull out a gun in a school and shoot at anyone, even for defense. It's a crime because you shouldn't have the gun. And then again, it's like pulling out a gun in a crowd and shooting into the crowd, right? It's reckless endangerment at best. It's a problem. It is a crime, right? Like I said, I don't think any good will be done by saying it's not a crime. Right? Like I said, I think that he should be put into a system that's going to help him, so that way he comes out better than he went in. Because guess what? He's coming out, and your tax dollars are paying for it anyway. So might as well produce an engineer that's not totally shattered. Let him do his 10 years in, a funny farm. And but I think that at the end of the day, we have to evaluate all of these other situations. And I think sometimes the law has to catch up to what we understand about human beings and human behavior. We shouldn't dismiss it, of course. Yeah, we got to punish, and we got to hold people and stuff like that, make sure they're safe before they're ever out in the community. But I think we have to also, like I said, I think the best thing to do is to sue the school. I would sue the school through the roof. I would be gunning for them. And the reason why is because no one can say that they're not culpable. And once that happens, there's going to be a cascade where
They're
they're
gonna be
actually,
like,
for
good
once, going
luck
to
on
try
that
to
one.
keep schools safe. Hmm?
They're gonna be like, good luck, like the school shooter shoot. Ah, the school shooter suing. God, that's a lot of S's. School shooter suing school. Ah,
Hmm.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, well, first of all, a lot of those cases are settled out of court, so the schools pay
Yeah,
out.
that would be a
Now,
service.
well, that's what I'm saying, and the schools pay out, shut it down. But here's the thing: this is a different
Well,
case. This is a
Ruby, you
different
better be on
scenario.
that goddamn legal team with them. You might want to be on that legal team.
I would be. Are you kidding me? Because this is
I would
this
be
this
right
would
there on
be.
the prosecution team to make sure his ass go under the goddamn school. But don't worry, I still love you though and take you to lunch.
Lord Jesus.
On the goddamn, oh, goddamn shit. I'm like, hey, you sure? I don't know why you chose Ruby because hey, she, you can tell Ruby, but I just want you to know she's not gonna win in this debate.
Oh no! You know what? Here's the thing, though. Right? I mean, as much as we can all feel however we feel, it comes down to the fact of the fact.
My feelings matter.
If you look at it ultimately, because actually in similar situations such as this, they've used battered women syndrome, the same argument, and actually gotten people all the way off. Like I said, I don't think it would be beneficial for him to get off. I think that he actually needs time in a facility to actually fix him, because I do think at this point, if not before, but definitely now, you know what I mean? He's going to need some serious help. And I don't think it does anybody any good to institutionalize another kid to come out in 20 years and be a hardened criminal that has almost an impossible time being employed. I was looking at the statistics yesterday. It's tragic that during the Great Depression, it was easier for criminals to be employed than now. Um, so yeah, especially one with a brain like that.
Mm.
Just saying.
Well, everyone, that's about the time we do have. Ruby did an amazing job with this one. You had to schedule her ahead of time.
You do. I know.
If y'all want to, if y'all want to catch her, go over to Shar. Just ask Shar. I love you, Shar. That is an amazing, non-biased stream where all they do is give the information, just the facts, only the facts, and they go by what the articles have written. The ladies, they do their research. Between is Shar and Ruby, and sometimes they have a guest on their panel. I believe Rhonda.
Well, okay, so Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. That's when we do the news show, and it's just me and Shar. I saved Timothy Simpkins for you, though. Okay, didn't cover it at all on Saturday. And
Mhm.
then Fridays is when we have our open panel. So basically, on Fridays, from 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? It's an open panel. So you can actually come up and speak your piece on
And
whatever it is we're talking about.
I will demonize Timothy Simpkins on your panel. So understand that. But I know Ruby's gonna try to have some paperwork ready for me, but I will slap it all down like always. Um, like I said, you guys are pretty interesting stream coming up. Y'all can go check out Mahogany Roots as well as I believe the Prophet of Thought. Shout out to the Prophet of Thought. He will be doing a debate with TVA and some guy called Ragnarok on is the white man being oppressed. Yes, that is actually a debate. Um, I can't make this up. So, other than that, I'll see you guys later. Much love. You guys take care. Welcome, and thank y'all for coming through. Shout out to the new member, um, Too Sexy. I'm Too Sexy. Shout out to Mano. Shout out to all the people who came through. Shout out to my mods. Shout out to everyone who came through. Shout out to I Am She and everyone who has definitely helped out in building the stream. Shout out to my co-host. Shout out to Michelle. I know she was sending me information, but I know I had to knock this out with Clash of Ruby. We were pretty much doing a psychological breakdown of the analytical side of it. I know Michelle, she wanted to hit it from the legal side, and that would have been a mixed bag that we'd have been here for like 3-4 hours. know the
Mm-hmm.
show had them. She was gonna be throwing all kinds of stuff. So see you guys later. Y'all have a good day. Peace.